everyone, thanks again for tuning into Sin's Workshop. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. It is sort of a gothic retelling of the fairy tale, the 12 Dancing Princesses, and it even says here on the back cover, once there were 12 of us. So there were, in fact, 12 princesses at one point. Now, I really did enjoy this story. I thought Craig did a really good job with creating the atmosphere of the story. She opens it up with a funeral, of all things. You're already in the somberness, and I do like that. I wish there were a map, because you have the mainland, and then you have all the islands. And on their island, Eulalie's father is, I'm pretty sure he's the Duke of the island, right? And his daughters are dying off, unfortunately. And everyone thinks the family's cursed. And what I really loved was how you're really involved in this atmosphere, in the world building. I think it was really well written, this structure. Another reason why I wish there were a map, because on their island, they take their kind of belief system very seriously, and when someone dies, you mourn them for 6 months, and then you wear black for 6 months, and then for another year you wear gray. So it's all about going back to the sea, and it reminded me a lot of the story Annabelle Lee. Sorry. Eulalie's name reminds me of Annabelle Lee, and I really do think you get that gothic atmosphere through this story, which is probably why I loved it, because it was very much a gothic lit book, in my personal opinion. That's how I would categorize this. This is definitely something I would recommend to my gothic lit professor at Emerson College. The atmosphere, like I said, is perfect. It's somber. It's like a dark and stormy night every single night for these girls. And for Eulalie, she's really working hard to find out what is going on. What is the sinister thing happening to her sisters? Are they just being murdered one by one? But no, some of them died of sickness. But did they really? So she's kind of questioning everything. And then all of a sudden, her and her sisters, they get these shoes. They get these shoes and they find this magical door. And they go dancing every night. Except for Eulalie, she's starting to see, there's something really sinister going on. And this goes back to the atmosphere of the story. Something eerie is happening. And she doesn't know what. She doesn't know who she can trust. She doesn't know if she's losing her mind. She is very unsure as to what is happening. And you as the reader, you're not really sure what's happening either. You're just kind of like, oh, okay, this is eerie. And that's why I liked it, though, because you're just like, it's a mystery. It really is a gothic mystery for young adult readers. It really just needs to be solved. And I love the fact that it's drawing from the 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale. I think the spin that Craig has decided to take on developing her own rendition of the story is incredibly unique. Honestly, it's not something I've ever seen a writer do before. From the atmosphere to the world building to the characterization, I think Craig did a spectacular job at using the fairy tale as a nice foundation for her story to lay on. And then she just goes from there. And that's why I liked it. That's why I was engaged. That's why I think it was definitely worth the read. Now, as much as I loved it, I wanted more, especially once we get to meet some of the gods. We get to meet the goddess of nightmares. And she's just like, well, she's crazy. Let me see if I can. I really need to start sticking sticky notes in these books. Oh my god. Haha. There we go. I think I opened right on the right page. Cosamaras. She's the harbinger of madness and nightmares. She even says that. She's like, and nightmares. She's like, everyone always forgets the and nightmares part. From her description to her mannerisms to her dialogue. She's not there a lot in the end, but damn, does she make an impact. And I kind of wanted more of her. I'm just like, I want to see more of this mad goddess. Can we have more of this mad goddess? Can I have a novella about her, please? Almost dropped the book. I think that was probably one of my favorite things of the book. We're introduced into these dark deities. However, as quickly as they're introduced and as impactful as their introduction is, they're gone just as quickly. They're only there for a couple of scenes, and for me, that was a disappointment because Craig made them really interesting, and I think she could have done more with them. Ultimately, I think she could have done way more with these gods, and I think it still would have kept the story going. I think the pacing would have continued. I don't think at all that it would have dragged it out, but I can see why she didn't. You know, she had her story. She was telling her story. Craig, she's telling her story, and she got her story out. You know, she went from point A to point B to point C. She didn't drag anything out, and I really do commend her from that. It's just she really made them really interesting, and she made me want more of them, and the fact that they weren't in the story more kind of disappointed me. Only because I really loved them, especially Cosmara. She's crazy. Now, as for the big revelation at the end, kind of saw that coming kind of from the beginning. I will say Craig did distract a lot from it. So when it was revealed, you're just like, oh, I kind of saw that coming. But you were distracted by a lot of the other elements in the story that it wasn't so heartbreaking to be like, oh yeah, I saw that coming, right? Because you're still trying to solve all these other mysteries that are going on. And it works. It's a very cohesive story. It's a very fast-paced story. The rising tension really does draw the reader in because, again, you have this very amazing gothic atmosphere. And if you're someone who likes gothic lit, if you're someone who likes dark and stormy night stories, I mean, this is a good story. It's a perfect read for October, if you ask me. It's just, you can imagine this world that Craig has built perfectly. You're submerged in it, And I think that's what really makes it stand out. Like, not only is it a fairy tale retelling, but it's a really unique fairy tale retelling. It takes the reader by surprise, really. It was not what I was expecting at all. I wasn't expecting something so gothic, so somber, so... I mean, you're on an island being battered by storms. Sea salt everywhere. It's like you can smell the ocean when you're reading this book. That's how submersive it is. I think Craig really did do an amazing job with her storytelling and her world building. So much so that I want more, you know. She just a new book of hers just came out, Small Favors, which I bought. Not that I've read it yet. But if she continues to write like this, wow. Just wow. I am in awe of good storytelling. I really do. And, I really do like my gothic lit. Let me say that. I really do. Anything that reminds me of Poe, anything that's kind of dark and eerie and atmospheric, anything that really submerges the reader in the story, I am here for 100%. So this was House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin Craig. I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Just because I wanted more of those gods. You know, there are 2 evil deities in the end. And just Kosamara, she kind of steals the show for that one scene that she's in. You're just like, oh wow, that was gruesome. And that was me. I was just like, oh, was not expecting that. 100%. I think that shows you something about the writer's talent. How she's able to utilize characters, even small part characters, and make them really stand out and grab your attention. So 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you're going to purchase the book, please remember to support your local bookseller or online book retailer when purchasing the book. I just ask that you don't use Amazon. You can use bookshop.org, which donates a percentage of all sales to a local bookstore in your neighborhood. You can use independently owned bookstore, by the way. IndieBound, which will give you a list of independently owned bookstores nearest to you as well. Bookshop does that as well. And you know what? Just because there's no Barnes & Noble or Books A Million near you, you can still support them by ordering online on their websites. So you can order books on booksamillion.com or barnesnoble.com. I just ask, you know, even if you don't want to use any of those, I just ask that you use anything other than Amazon. There's thriftbooks.com, bookoutlet.com, bookdepository.com, Better World Books, and I feel like I'm missing one. It'll come to me. There's a lot of resources out there for you to support booksellers and publishers instead of Amazon. I just don't want to see bookstores go out of business. Not just because I work at a bookstore, but also nothing beats going into the bookstore and just browsing the shelves. Just the smell of books, you know. I'm discovering, I work in a bookstore and I walk the shelves every day shelving, and I'm like, ooh, that looks interesting. It takes me forever to shelf books because half the time I'm distracted by, I'm like, let me see what this is about. And it's good. I have an ever-growing TBR pile. So just support booksellers. And if money's tight, support your local library. You can also get a digital library card and go on Libby, the app, and get an e-book or an audiobook from your library if you can't go get a physical copy for them. And on that note, I hope you all continue to support me here by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and sharing it with all your book-loving friends. You can also become a supporter on buying me a coffee or by purchasing one of my handmade candles. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.